It's Alan,
And James.
and we're outside today. It's a nice day, isn't it?
Yeah, for a change.
So today we are reviewing The Shack. I'll probably zoom in on that a bit. We're reviewing The Shack by W.M.
Paul Young.
Okay, so this is a bit of a hot topic at the minute. Film's just come out.
Yeah.
What kind of prompted you to read this?
Well, there was a film coming out, and I'd kind of seen it around and about, and thought I should probably educate myself a bit.
Yeah. So what do you reckon?
Well, it's not without its difficulties, to be honest. I think you can look at it on two levels. Either it's a story or it's a work of theology.
Okay, so how is it as a story? How is it?
As a story, actually, it's pretty moving. I think it works pretty well. It's all kind of about grace, and it tries to tackle the monumentally hard subject of suffering.
So what kind of, without spoiling it for people, what's the kind of the general gist of the story?
The general gist is that it's about a guy who goes on a holiday with his kids. One of them goes missing, and it's kind of the fallout of that. Obviously, it causes massive emotional damage until one day he kind of gets a message inviting him back to where it all happened.
Right.
And the message is from God, which is quite an interesting concept.
So like a real extreme word from God.
Yeah, well, you could say that, yeah.
Okay. So in terms of the theology, how is it?
Not great, if I'm honest.
That doesn't sound good.
It deals well with the ideas of like grace and suffering.
Right.
But it falls into a few pitfalls, the most obvious one being a kind of modal interpretation of the Trinity.
Right, so what do you mean by modalism, or modal interpretation?
It kind of breaks up the Trinity, so instead of being a triune but unique, eternally coexistent Godhead...
So instead of being three bits,
it's one who kind of turns up in three forms at different times just to make himself easier.
Right.
So it's more about form than actual... a state of being.
And how is God portrayed in the Shack? Is it a good God? Is it a bad God?
I'm not going to spoil it by being too detailed here, but generally it seems to be pretty good and, homely is probably a word I'd actually put to it.
Right, that sounds interesting. Not a word I would use having read the Gospels.
Not so much, and that's why I think it has its pitfalls. I would say, as a story, as a piece of fiction, it's probably a good starting point, but it should never ever be the terminal point of your journey into looking at the character of God.
Right, so that is The Shack. So, James, thumbs up or thumbs down? As a story?
As a story, I'll say, yeah, thumbs kind of up.
There we go. And as a work of theology?
Not so much.
Right, so that's The Shack. Read it at your own risk.